DeepSeek AI. Um, the name's been all over the news lately, hasn't it? Even causing like some serious waves in the stock market.
Yeah.
What started as this like fairy tale tech story is turning into, well, I don't know, a bit of a thriller.
Yeah. Yeah, it really seems like the honeymoon's over.
Right. So for this deep dive, we're going to try to unpack what happened, why this matters, and what this all means for DeepSeek's future. You got some really interesting sources to dig into. Cybersecurity news from the Hacker News, a report from an AI security firm, Encrypt AI, and even like a social media post that shows how shockingly easy it was to exploit this whole security mess.
Yeah, sounds like we've got a lot to cover then.
Definitely. So let's start with DeepSeek's rise to fame. The Hacker News, they really painted this picture of a company that seemed to come out of nowhere, with their chatbot just blowing up the App Store charts on both Android and iOS.
Right. And everyone was saying they were, the next big thing, a real challenger to, like, the giants, like OpenAI. The Encrypt report even quoted someone calling this AI's, get this, Sputnik moment.
Sputnik moment. Whoa, that's a pretty big comparison. What was it about DeepSeek that caused such a stir?
Well, they did things a little differently, like they focused on open source models, claimed to be way more efficient and cost effective, and they said they were going to make AI accessible to everyone, democratize it or something like that. They were positioning themselves as, I don't know, like David to OpenAI's Goliath.
I see. Okay. But then this big security breach happened. The Hacker News had all these details about one of DeepSeek's databases being like left wide open. They were using a ClickHouse database. And it sounds like they didn't even have any basic authentication set up.
Yeah, that's about right. Basically, anyone who knew what they were doing could get into this, like, treasure trove of information.
And we're not talking about a couple leaked passwords here, right? This was bigger.
Oh, yeah, much bigger. I think the Hacker News said over 1 million log lines were exposed. Things like chat history, secret keys, API secrets, all kinds of operational metadata. It's really pretty worrying, the scale of it all.
Yeah, it's a far cry from, democratizing AI. Feels more like they accidentally democratized access to everyone's data.
Yeah, definitely not the best look. And it makes you question their whole approach to security,
Yeah.
Like one cybersecurity researcher said, and I'm quoting here from the Hacker News, the rapid adoption of AI services without corresponding security is inherently risky.
It seems like that risk cut up with DeepSeek, huh?
For sure. And then there was that social media post we mentioned. Someone basically showed how they could break into this database using just like basic SQL injection.
Oh, right.
It's an old technique, yeah.
Yeah.
But the fact that it works so easily on DeepSeek's system, well, it doesn't exactly inspire confidence, does it? It kind of shows a bigger problem with the whole AI scene right now.
Yeah.
Are we moving too fast and forgetting about security?
Right. And it seems like DeepSeek's problems go even deeper than this security breach.
Yeah, there's definitely more to it than just this one incident.
What else is going on?
Well, according to the Hacker News, DeepSeek actually had to, pause new registrations because of what they called large-scale malicious attacks. So it sounds like they're still dealing with a pretty serious security situation.
Wow. So not just one mistake, but maybe like a bunch of issues.
Yeah.
That's not great for their future, especially with how competitive AI is right now.
No, not at all. And there are other issues, too. The Hacker News mentioned that people are starting to question DeepSeek's privacy policies, and there are concerns about their ties to the Chinese government.
Oh, so now we're getting to the world of geopolitics, huh? That adds a whole other layer to this.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, DeepSeek's apps were even removed from app stores in Italy after the data protection regulator over there started asking questions about how they handle user data. And apparently, the Irish Data Protection Commission is looking into them, too.
Okay, so we've got a major security breach, maybe more. Questions about privacy practices and government ties. That's a lot for any company to handle, let alone one trying to, become a leader in AI.
Right. All that talk about openness and democratization is starting to sound a bit hollow,
Yeah, but wait, there's even more, isn't there? I remember reading something about DeepSeek possibly using their competitors' technology.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Bloomberg, the Financial Times, the Wall Street Journal, they all reported that OpenAI and Microsoft are looking into whether DeepSeek might have used OpenAI's technology to train their own AI models.
Wait, hold on. You're saying they might have been secretly using their competitors' tech? How's that even possible?
The technique is called distillation. It's basically like training your own model on the output of another model. Like, imagine learning from someone else's notes instead of, studying the material yourself.
Ah, okay. So instead of doing the hard work, they maybe took a shortcut using OpenAI's work.
That's what they're looking into. And a spokesperson from OpenAI even told The Guardian that they know about groups in China trying to copy advanced U.S. AI models, possibly using this distillation method.
So it's not just security and privacy now, but maybe even intellectual property theft.
Yeah.
This is getting messy. Is there anything else, or can DeepSeek catch a break?
Well, about that break, remember Encrypt AI, that security firm that does red teaming?
Red teaming, what's that?
Basically, it's ethical hacking, but for AI. They try to find weaknesses in AI models before, the bad guys do.
Oh, okay. So like a digital stress test to see how tough these AIs really are.
Exactly. And their report on DeepSeek's R1 model, the one that everyone was so excited about, well, it's not exactly good news for DeepSeek.
Come on, don't leave me hanging. What did they find?
They found that DeepSeek's R1 model is much more likely to create harmful content than the models from leading AI companies.
Harmful how? Like, can you give an example? What does that even look like?
Well, think about it like this. Imagine you use an AI to build a website. Now imagine the AI accidentally puts in a security flaw that lets hackers steal user data. Or, say, you use an AI to write marketing stuff, and it ends up using offensive language without you even realizing it. The possibilities are pretty broad, and the results can be bad.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like we're building these powerful tools, but we don't really know how to control them yet.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why Encrypt's work is so important. They're trying to find those problems before they, blow up. Now, another thing they found is that DeepSeek's model is much more likely to create insecure code compared to other models.
Wait, so this AI can write code that's basically a hacker's dream come true.
Well, it's not that simple, but there is a real concern there. Like, if you train an AI on code with security flaws, it might learn to make those same mistakes when it writes new code.
Yeah, that sounds like a recipe for disaster. So what can we do about this? How do we keep AI from becoming dangerous?
There's no easy answer, but there are things we can do. For one, we need to be much more careful about the data we use to train these models. We need to make sure it's diverse, representative, and free of biases.
Right, because if you train an AI with biased data, you're going to get biased results, like they say, garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly. But it's not just the data. We also need better ways to test these models and find problems before they get released.
So like build in safety checks every step of the way.
Exactly. And maybe the most important thing, we need to have open and honest conversations about AI, not just among engineers and researchers, but involving everyone, like policymakers, the public, everyone.
Sounds like we need a whole new set of rules for this AI world, right?
We do. The old rules aren't enough. We need to adapt our laws and, our guidelines to make sure that AI is used for good and not for bad stuff.
It all seems so complicated. It's like we're entering this exciting new world, but we're not sure if it's going to be amazing or terrifying.
That's a really good point. It gets to the heart of the whole AI situation, doesn't it? AI could solve some of humanity's biggest problems, but it could also create new ones if we aren't careful.
So what should our listeners be thinking about as they try to figure all this out?
I think the most important thing is to stay informed and, engaged. Learn about AI, understand what it can and can't do, what the risks are, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, like anything else, knowledge is power. The more we understand about AI, the better we'll be able to, guide its development and make sure it's used ethically. Now, going back to what we were discussing about DeepSeek's ties to the Chinese government.
Right, that's an important part of the story.
Let's take a closer look at what all this means on a global level, because this isn't just about one company, is it? It's about global power dynamics and like who's going to control the future of AI.
Yeah, it's an interesting mix, isn't it? You've got this incredible technology with huge potential, and then you add in international relations, economic competition, national security.
And DeepSeek, with its Chinese roots and global ambitions, is right in the middle of it all.
Definitely. And that Sputnik moment thing we talked about, that wasn't just a random comparison. DeepSeek's sudden rise, especially the way they were challenging U.S. tech companies, made some people think, oh, maybe the balance of power in AI is shifting.
So some people are saying the U.S. is feeling threatened by China's advances in AI.
It's not just about feeling threatened. It's more about realizing that AI is going to be super important in this century. It'll affect everything from like the economy to military stuff.
It's like the new space race, but instead of rockets, we're talking about algorithms.
Exactly. And just like back then, there's this feeling of, we need to stay ahead. The U.S. has been leading in tech for so long, but China is catching up fast. They're putting a lot of resources into AI.
And DeepSeek was seen as an example of, how good China was getting at AI, right?
Absolutely. Their open source approach, the focus on making AI cheap and easy to use it, was a really appealing story, and it worked all over the world. But then, as we've seen, things started to unravel.
The security problems, the privacy concerns, the
Yeah.
questions about stealing technology. It's like DeepSeek's story became a warning about what can happen when you rush AI development.
Right. And it's made people realize that we need to develop AI responsibly to think about safety from the very beginning.
So what does all this mean for the future of AI globally?
I think we're at a crossroads. On one hand, AI has so much potential to make our lives better, to solve problems, to drive innovation. But on the other hand, there are these real dangers, misuse, unintended consequences, all that.
And those dangers get even bigger when you add in geopolitical tensions and competition between countries.
Exactly. The DeepSeek story shows us that we need countries to work together, to talk to each other, to agree on how to handle the challenges and opportunities of AI.
So instead of everyone trying to be better than everyone else, we need a more collaborative approach.
Yeah, I think that's crucial if we want AI to be a force for good. We need to move past this idea of like winner takes all and realize that everyone benefits from responsible AI development.
That's a big challenge, especially in a world that feels so divided.
It is. But the DeepSeek story, even with all the messiness, has started an important conversation. It's made us face some hard truths about AI and how it fits into, the global picture.
So what's the one thing our listeners should take away from this deep dive?
I think it's this. AI isn't just a technology thing, it's a human thing. It's about the choices we make, the things we value, and the kind of future we want to build.
And those choices, those values, they matter more than ever.
They do. The DeepSeek story is just one part of the bigger story of AI. It's still being written, and we don't know how it ends. But one thing's for sure, the choices we make today will decide what the future looks like.
So to our listeners, we leave you with this. What role will you play in shaping the future of AI?
It's a question worth thinking about. Because the future of AI isn't something that just happens to us, it's something we create together. So one of the most concerning things that Encrypt found, right, was that DeepSeek's model is way more likely to create content that's, well, harmful than those from like the big AI companies.
Harmful how? Like, give me an example. What does that even mean? Harmful content.
Okay, so imagine you're using an AI to build a website, and the AI, without you knowing, puts in a security flaw. And that flaw, it lets hackers get in and steal all the user data. Or maybe you're using an AI to, write some marketing copy, and it ends up saying something offensive or like discriminatory. It's not intentional, but it happens.
Yeah, I get it. Like, we're building these super powerful tools, but we don't really have the instruction manual yet, right?
That's it. And that's why what Encrypt does is so important. They're trying to find those cracks in the system before, someone else does. Now, another big thing from the report is that DeepSeek's model is way more vulnerable to making code that's, well, not secure, much more than other models.
So basically, this AI can write code that's like a welcome mat for hackers.
It's not quite like that, but the concern is, like, legit. Say an AI learns from code that has vulnerabilities. Well, it could end up making those same mistakes when it writes new code.
Yeah, that does not sound good. So what can we even do about this? How do we, like, stop AI from becoming a weapon?
Well, there's no easy fix, but there are things we can do. For one, we need to be a lot more careful about the data we use to train these models, make sure it's, diverse, representative, and doesn't have any biases.
Because, yeah, if you train an AI with bad data, you're going to get bad results. It's like that saying, garbage in, garbage out, right?
Exactly. But it's not just about the data. We need better ways to test these AI models, catch those problems before, they cause trouble in the real world.
So, like, build in safety checks at every level.
Right. And maybe the most important thing, we need to talk about this stuff openly and honestly, not just, tech people, but everyone, policymakers, the public, everyone.
It's like we need new rules for this whole AI game, don't we?
We do. The old rules just don't cut it. We need to update our laws, our regulations, our guidelines to make sure AI is used for good stuff, not bad.
This is all getting pretty heavy. It's like we're at the beginning of something amazing, but also kind of scary, right?
That's a really good point. It kind of sums up the whole AI dilemma, doesn't it? AI could help us solve some of our biggest problems, but it could also create new ones if we're not super careful.
So what should our listeners, what should they be thinking about with all this going on?
Stay informed, Keep learning about AI, what it can do, what it can't do, what the risks are. And don't be afraid to ask questions. That's important.
Yeah, like with anything, the more you know, the better. Understanding AI is the best way to make sure it's used ethically. Now, remember those concerns about DeepSeek's connections to the Chinese government.
Yeah, that's a big piece of the puzzle.
Let's zoom out a bit. Look at the global picture, because this is bigger than just one company, right? It's about, like, global power. Who's going to control the future of AI?
It's a fascinating mix, isn't it? You have this cutting-edge technology, so much potential, and then you add in the whole world of international relations, economic competition, national security.
And DeepSeek, right in the middle of it all,
Yeah.
with their Chinese roots and global ambitions.
Right. And that Sputnik moment thing we talked about, that wasn't just a catchy phrase. DeepSeek's rapid rise, especially the way they were challenging U.S. tech companies, made a lot of people think, hey, maybe the balance of power in AI is shifting.
So are people saying that the U.S. is feeling threatened by China's progress in AI?
It's not just about feeling threatened. It's more like realizing that AI is going to be crucial in the 21st century. It's going to affect everything from the economy to, like, military stuff.
Like the new space race, but instead of building rockets, we're building algorithms.
Exactly. And just like back then, there's this feeling that, falling behind isn't an option. The U.S. has been the tech leader for so long, but China is catching up fast. They're putting a lot of resources into AI research and development.
And DeepSeek was kind of a poster child for China's AI success, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Their open source approach, their focus on efficiency and affordability, it was a really compelling narrative and it worked all over the world. But then, well, as we've discussed, things started to fall apart.
The security breaches, the privacy concerns, the allegations of stolen technology. It's like DeepSeek's story became a cautionary tale, a warning about the dangers of rushing AI development without thinking about the consequences.
It definitely raised some red flags.
Right.
And it's definitely fueled this whole conversation about the need for responsible AI, for making sure that safety is a top priority right from the start.
So where does this leave us? What's the big picture when it comes to the global AI landscape?
I think we're at a crossroads. On one hand, we have this incredible potential for AI to improve our lives, solve problems, drive innovation. But on the other hand, there are very real risks like misuse, unintended consequences, all of that.
And those risks, they get even scarier when you add in, geopolitical tensions and the competition between nations.
You're absolutely right. The DeepSeek story shows us how important it is for countries to cooperate, to have open dialogue, to agree on how to handle the challenges and the opportunities of AI.
So instead of this, like, everyone for themselves mentality, we need a more collaborative approach, like everyone working together.
Exactly. That's crucial if we want AI to be a force for good.
Right.
We have to move past this idea of winners and losers and realize that everyone benefits from responsible AI development.
That's a tall order, especially in a world that feels so divided right now.
It is. But I think the DeepSeek story, even with all the controversy, has started a much-needed conversation. It's made us confront some uncomfortable truths about AI and grapple with the geopolitical implications of this technology.
So for our listeners, what's the key takeaway from all of this? What's the one thing they should remember from this deep dive?
I think it's this. AI isn't just about technology. It's about us, about humans. It's about the choices we make, the values we prioritize, and the future we want to create.
And those choices, those values, they're more important than ever.
They really are. The DeepSeek saga is just one chapter in the story of AI, and the story is still being written. We don't know the ending yet, but one thing's for sure. The choices we make today will shape the world of tomorrow.
So to our listeners, we leave you with this thought. What role will you play in shaping the future of AI?
It's a question worth pondering because the future of AI isn't something that just happens to us. It's something we create together.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. DeepSeek's rise, their fall from grace. We talked about what it all means for AI security and the whole global landscape, right?
Yeah, it's been quite a story, hasn't it? Really shows you how important it is to, think carefully about this tech, approach it with caution.
For sure. So thinking about DeepSeek's future, what do you think happens next? Can they come back from all this, or is this like the end of the road?
It's hard to say. It's not going to be easy, that's for sure. They've got to win back trust, fix those security issues, and figure out how to, navigate all this geopolitics stuff.
Yeah, it's like they're, juggling chainsaws while riding a unicycle on a tightrope. Not easy.
No, definitely not. They messed up and there have been consequences, but I wouldn't, completely write them off just yet.
Really? Why not?
Well, they still have some things going for them. Their initial success, it wasn't just luck. They tapped into something, People want AI that's easier to use and cheaper.
True. And the whole open source thing, even with the risks, does give you a certain level of transparency. People like that.
Right. If they can learn from what happened, really focus on security, be more transparent, show that they're serious about, responsible AI, then maybe, just maybe, they can fix their reputation and get back on track.
So it's a long shot, but not impossible.
Mm.
We'll have to wait and see. Now, before we wrap up, I want to go back to something you said before about international cooperation in AI development. What did you mean by that?
Well, as we've seen with DeepSeek, AI isn't just a local thing anymore. It's global. It affects everyone.
And as AI gets more powerful, those effects are going to get bigger too.
Exactly. We need to start thinking about AI like on a global level, like international standards for safety, security, transparency, all that.
So like those international agreements we have for things like nuclear weapons or climate change?
Right, exactly like that. We need to all agree that responsible AI is good for everyone, no matter what country you're from.
It's a big goal, but I agree, it's super important. We don't want AI to become another reason for conflict, right?
Certainly not. We have to work together to make sure AI is used to make things better, not worse.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a great place to leave it. So to our listeners, as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of DeepSeek AI, remember this. The future of AI, it's not set in stone. It's something we create together.
And the choices we make now will determine what that future looks like. Will it be a future where AI is used for good, for progress and shared prosperity? Or will it be something else entirely?
The future is in our hands, so let's make sure we choose wisely.